Mill kicked out now husband from her house years ago. I'm still mad about it. When husband and I first started dating, I bought my own house. He still lived at home, but once my house was finished being built, he stayed the night a couple times a week. I grew up in a fairly traditional family and honestly didn't know how my parents would react to him fully moving in, which was a big part of my decision to wait to ask him to move in. Side note, they were very supportive when I told them. I also wanted to wait until I had a better work schedule. At the time I was working overnight shifts and a lot of them to pay for the house by myself. Anyway, one day I woke up to get ready for work and had multiple missed calls from now husband and Mill. I had one text from husband saying call me when you wake up, and a very long text from Mill. The text basically said that she swears she didn't want to have to kick him out, but she had no choice, as her daughter needs an office space for her college classes this summer and that was the only option. She said she loves him and doesn't want to fight but thinks it's for the best if he just moves in with me. At this point I had no idea what was going on and hadn't talked to my so yet. Come to find out, when my so arrived at my house, he told me that she violently grabbed a ton of his clothes, important documents, and his cell phone and threw them out the front door. The papers and clothes were fine but the phone was cracked. Apparently it was a screaming match. He was very angry. He was kicked out of his childhood bedroom and told his sister's needs were more important. For months we didn't talk to Mill or Phil. Both made it very clear they didn't owe anyone an apology. Sister ended up leaving the state a couple months later, which is when Mill came crawling back and starting her manipulative tactics to make my husband feel bad for her. Called him sobbing on the phone every day for weeks after his sister left and begging him to come see her to help her heal. We have tried having a sit down with both Mill and Phil and they both say they don't owe us an apology and they did nothing wrong. That it's their house and they can choose who lives there. We decided it was best to just move on with life and not force an apology if it wasn't genuine. Mill also claims more recently that she never told him to get out, just to make room for a desk in his room for her, which there was no room, it was very small. Recently she asks husband to come spend the night at her house and hang out with her all day, has asked this a couple times. Mind you, there is still no furniture in that room because my husband took it all when he was kicked out. We joked about there being no furniture when she asked once and she said that he could move his stuff back in since it's just in a spare room at our house. I honestly don't even know if it's worth bringing this situation up anymore, it's been a few years. But it seems to always creep back in and it's clearly unresolved. I've told husband it feels like this important moment in our relationship was so tainted by this situation. Should I say something the next time it gets brought up? Comment. I read your other post. I'm not qualified to diagnose her, but she does sound like she has borderline personality disorder. Her throwing your so out sound to me like she felt like he was abandoning her for you, so she abandoned him in return by violently kicking him out. That's a classic BPD behavior. Once her tantrum passed, she was completely bewildered at why he was upset and didn't want to be around her, so she pulled out the victim card and continues to rewrite reality to suit herself, with Phil enabling and cheering her on in the background. Another classic BPD behavior. I have some BPD people in my life and am in therapy after being abused by them for years. According to my therapist, the only way to deal with these people is to set clear, absolutely unmovable boundaries. Don't ever give even an inch because they will take 10 miles. I have a habit of jading, and am working on not doing that. I suspect that is what your so also does. Your so does not owe her an explanation for his no answers. He does not need to explain why he doesn't want to spend the night, which is step 1 to her demanding he move back in and return to their previous relationship. He's a grown man in a long-term relationship. He owes her nothing, just a no. I really recommend seeking help from a therapist who specializes in cognitive behavioral therapy to learn strategies on how to deal with your just normal. Good luck, op. I don't even understand why you have a relationship with these people. The day she threw your BF out to make room for his sister, would have been the last day I ever saw her. Mill wants her children to be her emotional support animals from the sound of it. She kicked him out when he refused, and then, horror of horrors, her daughter refused. Think about this, they are never wrong, so they will never apologize. What is going to happen if you have children? How will she treat them? What is DH getting out of the relationship with his parents? Do they emotionally support him in any way? He probably hasn't moved on but would prefer to pretend it never happened because that is the coping mechanism he developed as a child to deal with her. Rug sweeping is common in dysfunctional families. Next story 2. Mill says my baby shower cost her thousands of dollars. Not a recent story, but one of my many issues with my Mill Ella. When Noah and I were pregnant with our first baby, I was minimal contact with my dad and step-monster. Ella decided she would throw my baby shower for me, and we were so happy about it. Not to be ungrateful after the fact, but it was just terrible. Most of the guests were Noah's extended family who I hadn't actually met before. My dad and step-monster were there with my 12-year-old sisters, and that was it. For food, she bought a platter of turkey sandwiches and some cubed cheese. Note, I have chronic migraines, so I avoid deli meat as it's a potential trigger. Drinks available were bottled water. For games, she made all the men go outside, then it was a game about naming my favorite things like color, actor, etc. There was not a single person who got a correct answer, including my step-monster and sisters, but that's a different issue, and that was the most embarrassing experience. I walked out of there, not being able to eat the meal and feeling like no one knew me, and because of pregnancy hormones I was super bummed about it. When the party wrapped up, she bagged up all the party decorations, Walmart-esque It's a Boy banner and some streamers. Nothing crazy, and told us to reuse them as decor for our son's nursery. Side note, we did not. So fast forward to 2 years ago, a few years later. I told her I wanted to throw a shower for our incoming little girl. She said if I wanted a second baby shower it would have been a slap in the face to her shower and how much she did for me. After all, my shower was thousands of dollars. Edit, I was going to do this one myself after the first time. I asked how in the world my shower was that expensive. She says she had to have her floors professionally redone, the walls painted, and had to renovate her guest room, on top of decor and food. Ella lives in an upper-middle-class suburb. Her house is not in even mediocre condition, and all these requirements I didn't even notice because her house is always in great condition. Is it normal to rope home renovation projects in with party costs? I'm just honestly baffled still. Comment. I hear about landscaping expenses rolled into the cost of a backyard wedding, but your Mill is taking this to an extreme. Her lack of consideration is pretty remarkable. Just ignore her attempts to guilt trip you. She probably just used throwing the shower as an excuse to do the updates to her house and blame you. That's also probably why she went cheap on you too. I would just throw your own shower and do it however you like and invite whoever you want, and feel free to exclude her and all the people who bring no positives to your life. Nope, I don't think it's normal. She took this way too far, and the way you described it, it seemed like she gave you a baby shower she would have wanted. I don't think you would ask her to redo the floor and to paint the walls for a baby shower with people you don't know or care much about. Weird. Personally, I don't get her train of thoughts. Why shouldn't you be able to throw another baby shower? Because she couldn't budget, or? The baby shower is about the new baby, or am I wrong? There's an episode of Friends where the groom's parents offered to pay half of the wedding, but when going through the itemized cost list, they discovered the bride's parents had things on there like new wine cellar. That was a 90s sitcom's idea of hilariously stepping over the line. It's so crazy, it's just baffling that she could really think her party for you not only required those upgrades but that she could tot up the expenses and then almost hold them over your head. I would have laughed at her and said, good one. Like, you can't get away with saying such lies, it's not polite. My shower had nothing to do with you choosing to remodel your house. Have the shower you want for your baby girl. Also maybe don't invite her, she sounds awful.